Hello everyone, welcome to or welcome back to my channel. Today I will be sharing with you all the books that I read in the month of October. It's not really that impressive. I, for some reason, thought when I was planning out this month and the books I wanted to read that I would be able to read 8 books, which I'm not really sure how I was planning on doing that and be in college at the same time. But I did end up reading some books this month, so I'm going to share those with you. The first book I read in the month of October was L'Homme qui plantait des arbres. I have 2 copies of it due to confusions in class about which version we were supposed to be owning, but this is the version that I actually read, and it's by Giano, and I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. You couldn't guess, I read this book for my French class, and honestly, this is kind of pathetic and shallow, but part of the enjoyment for me was actually reading in French. I really liked doing that. It made me feel like maybe I actually know French. I found the story very endearing and I liked the simplistic message in it, and I also really enjoyed the writing. I found it very fascinating to read about an area of the world that I'm not very familiar with, and I also really enjoyed some of the metaphors and descriptions within this little novel short story thing. We watched a short film. It was about 30 minutes long and animated of this story, and I really enjoyed that. So even if you haven't read this book, I definitely recommend checking out the story because it is so precious. Next book I read in the month of October was The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym by Edgar Allan Poe. This is for my English class, which is all about Poe. I gave this book 2 out of 5 stars. This is easily one of the worst books I've read this year. I have not read such a racist, horrible, not well written, not well thought out, not well executed book in quite some time. In our class, our professor asked us what were our feelings about this book, and I was shocked that no one just started trashing it immediately. I was like, guys, this book is literally horrible. For me, if you have to spend so much time trying to give the author the benefit of the doubt and try to give the author all these different excuses, and you're looking for the deeper meaning, but you have to really look for the deeper meaning, at that point you're just on a different book. You're not even talking about this book anymore. Some people say Poe was writing a satire and mocking the longer form of fiction. I disagree. I just don't think he cared when he was writing this book. He just wanted some money. Other people say that he's truly critiquing slavery and that he's actually anti-racist and anti-slavery. That's just not true. If you read this book, you'll see that that's just not true, because the racism in this book is truly horrendous. And we read an excerpt from Playing in the Dark by Toni Morrison, which said that we need to read a lot of early white authors to understand racism and the role that race plays in literature, and I do agree with that. My problem is just when we read books like this, and then we just don't read another book to combat that, and it's this is what I'm left with thinking. This is what's consuming my mind, and honestly, it's just horrible. So 2 out of 5 stars, do not recommend, do not read. Obviously, if it's assigned, you have to read it, but Poe, I don't know what you were thinking. I respected you with some of your work, but this, I'm done with Poe, to say the least. After leaving such a bad taste in my mouth, I was able to move on to a much better book, which was Zuleika by Yakina. I'm sorry, that was butchered completely. And I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. I chose this book initially because it is a contemporary Russian novel, and I love Russian literature. If you have watched any of my other book videos, you should know that. When I found out that my school's library had it, I checked it out immediately, and I am so glad I did. Zuleika as a character was so incredible. The love that she has in her heart and the will that she has to live was incredibly heartwarming to read and very inspiring. I found her story to be very interesting, and just some of the imagery with the whole doctor scene and the egg that's coming over his head. I don't want to spoil too much, but that was just so incredible, and I found it very well written and well done. It also did provide some of that historical context I was looking for about the Siberian work camps. They were truly, truly horrific, and I found this book to be much more informative than One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. I was kind of bummed out that the Tadar aspect of this kind of seemed to die out after the beginning of the book, and I really was interested in the whole religious aspect, and it kind of stayed throughout the whole book, but it didn't really, so that's kind of why I docked it half a star. But I really, really enjoyed the characters in this book. Definitely a character book. It was definitely a little disturbing at some points and difficult to read, but I am so glad I did. I highly recommend this novel. The last book I read in the month of October was Eugene On Again by Alexander Pushkin. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I love, love, love this book. This is the first Pushkin that I've ever read in my life, and it's honestly was so amazing. I don't know why I haven't read Pushkin before. I have had this book on my to-read list for quite some time when I started my Russian literature journey, but I never really got around to it. I read the version that's translated by Vladimir Nabokov, which some people find very upsetting and controversial. I didn't really read his notes, I just read the actual text. I'm really looking forward to getting my own copy and rereading it because I feel like even though I was so inspired by it and loved so much of it, a lot of it had to have gone over my head. I also have heard that because it's not written in Russian and I'm not reading it in Russian, I'll never fully grasp the true meaning of it, which is also so fascinating to me. There were just so many little lines that jumped out to me and I loved them so much. The interweaving storylines with the different characters was great, and I also really enjoyed, and I was also really fascinated by the fact that Eugene was kind of awful, like not a great guy that we would look up to or think that, wow, this is such a great hero for the story. So I found that really fascinating as well. Yeah, I love, love, love this book. It's so beautiful, so well written. I read about Pushkin's rhyming and how he's had this style named after him, and he was rhyming with masculine nouns versus feminine nouns. That just blew my mind. And I really, really liked the imagery. I think this is the perfect winter read, and I'm really excited for it to potentially become an annual December read. I have some books that I always like to read during the month of December, so this might be one of them, and I'm really excited to own my own copy. So yes, I did only read 4 books in the month of October. I know it's sad. On Halloween, I started a 5th book, but obviously I didn't finish that, so hopefully I'll finish my current read in the month of November, which is The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss. I am on page 154 out of 1,107, so this is definitely a big book. I am loving this book. I just love Quoth as a main character, and I really did not expect to like him when I read the first book, and I just love Quoth so much. I'm not going to talk too much about this book, but I definitely recommend this series. I will say, Patrick Rothfuss, where's the 3rd book? You promised us the 3rd book would be coming out in September, and I don't see it. Like, if you go on Goodreads, nowhere to be found. So that's a little frustrating, and I was reading this book because I thought the 3rd book was going to be coming out soon, but it's not. So I'm still going to read this book and hope that eventually Patrick Rothfuss comes out with the 3rd book, but honestly, it should not be taking you this long, sir. So those are the books that I read in the month of October, as well as the book that I am currently reading. I will obviously continue to read books for school in the month of November, and I'm hoping to go to the library later this week to return those books that I just finished, and then check out some new ones to read in the month of November. I'm crossing my fingers that for the month of December, I'll be able to go home and get a lot of reading done, which is something I usually do over winter break, so I'm really looking forward to that. I just need to get through finals and it'll be all better. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, give it a like and subscribe, and I will see you all next week with a college video.